Michigan voters should be honored? Will you honor the will of the Michigan voters?
Republican Michigan lawmakers arriving in Washington this morning, summoned here by none other than the president himself, in a last-ditch brazen attempt to coerce them to flip the state's result in his favor.
Senator Sharkey, will you honor the will of the Michigan voters? Will you honor the will of the Michigan voters?
The will of the Michigan voter was to elect Joe Biden as America's next president. He won there by a margin of 154,000 votes. But now a desperate Donald Trump, having failed in the courts, is trying another route to persuade these legislators to ignore Biden's win and instead, citing alleged irregularities, hand the victory to Donald Trump instead.
Shame on you! Shame on you! Shame on you!
Far from me to question his motive. It's just outrageous what he's doing.
That was President-elect Joe Biden's response when asked about the president's Michigan antics yesterday.
He will go down in history as being one of the most irresponsible presidents in American history. It's just out of the, not even within the norm at all. There's questions whether it's even legal.
In fact, Trump's move is so outside the norm that there are those who worry he may just pull it off, because it's the Michigan lawmakers who have to certify the state's results. And if he can persuade them to change the outcome, can he persuade other legislators too?
What are these two guys doing flying to Washington? Trump is a very powerful personality, and if you were going to say no to the president, you should have said no to the meeting. They really should have stayed home. If Michigan does it, then does that start building up some momentum for another state to do it?
A few questions?
This man certainly hopes so. Rudy Giuliani, the president's personal lawyer, come chief reclaim the election hustler. But amid the wild allegations of food trucks full of Biden ballots and Venezuelan perpetrated voter theft, it was an apparent hair dye malfunction that garnered the most attention.
You can't say, you're just lying to the American people when you say there's no evidence.
No such rookie errors for the president's press secretary today.
What is the president planning to discuss this afternoon with the two Michigan lawmakers?
A question she dismissed as just a routine meeting.
This is not an advocacy meeting. There will be no one from the campaign there. He routinely meets with lawmakers from all across the country.
Notwithstanding the fact these lawmakers happen to be from the very state where Donald Trump is desperately trying to have the election result overturned. Back in the real world, the inauguration stand is being erected outside the Capitol and the Christmas tree has gone up. In normal times, what would follow is the official verification of the election results on December the 14th. But these are anything but normal times.
So where does all this leave the state of American democracy? I'm joined now by the writer and historian Anne Applebaum. Anne, good to have you back on the programme again. What do you think Trump is actually up to?
So I think Trump has several goals. One of them is, yes, to steal the election. It's improbable. It's never been done. So far, it's been a failure and a joke. But there is no question that this is a systematic plan, that it was prepared in advance, that he prepared his followers in advance. He told them that the election would be rigged, that postal ballots would be fake. He had lawyers ready to involve themselves in a range of frivolous lawsuits, and now he's trying to persuade state legislatures on his side. If that fails, Plan B is to use his dissatisfied, angry base, which will be convinced that the election was stolen, for political and financial his needs in the future. He can use them as inside the Republican Party. He can use them to persuade senators to go along with what he wants, and he can raise money for them. And in fact, he's doing that already. He's been sending emails and text messages to them trying to raise money on the back of these court cases. The small print says that the money goes directly to him.
Now, we laugh at aspects of this, don't we? When Rudy Giuliani, Trump's lawyer, appears at a press conference and he's got, hair dye and sweat trickling down his face. But actually, this is really quite serious, isn't it? If he's trying to delegitimize the man who's actually won the election.
It's a really strange moment in American politics. It's even hard for great specialists to understand because it is simultaneously very serious. Nobody has tried to steal an election like this ever before. And at the same time, it's pathetic and laughable. And, people have come up with phrases like it's a clown coup or a ridiculous coup or a ludicrous coup, but it's still an attempt. I mean, there's no question that this is an attempt to overthrow an election. And just so that your viewers are clear, there is no problem with the American voting systems. They've all been recently updated. They were updated after 2016, after there was more fear of cyber attacks on them. The existing problems in the US electoral system have nothing to do with vote counting or vote tallying or nothing like that. So what we're seeing, and by the way, Trump's attempts to undermine all those processes have failed completely. So what we're seeing now is something more blatant, which is an attempt to steal the election outwardly.
Okay, so actually Trump is speaking right now, and he's talking about the price of medicines, apparently. This is his second appearance, only his second appearance since the election. He's still obviously not conceded. And finally and briefly, do you think that what has now become the squatter-in-chief could have to be heaved out of the White House on Inauguration Day by the security people who are now looking after him?
Look, Joe Biden has said on January 20th he'll be trespassing, and we have laws against that in the United States. My guess is that he'll leave before that. But I mean, at this point, I wouldn't want to predict anything. I mean, this is a man who has no compunction about lying, no sense of humiliation, and no sense of shame. He's shown that for 4 years, and he's proving it now again once more.